Usually when I make whole wheat bread, this is how it comes out. Not much rice in it, very dense, kind of like cardboardy, you know, a real dense bread. So if you're anything like me and this is your experience making whole wheat bread, you definitely want to watch this video because I'm going to show you how to go from this to this, which is a nice, soft sandwich loaf type texture. And the good thing is, this is 100% whole wheat. This is not a 3/4 wheat or a half wheat bread where we added white flour to give us this kind of texture and consistency. Nope, this is 100% whole wheat bread. So if you want to know how to achieve this, this is the video for you. Let me show you how to do it. So it's very basic ingredients to do this whole wheat bread. But I want to talk about this here, the food processor. I posted the trial of the recipe on Twitter and I got a suggestion from Gain Dude, aka Curry Denzel. He told me the food processor is the way to go to develop the gluten in the flour, the whole wheat flour. So when I tried it, I got perfect results. Cut into this and see how we're looking on the inside. A nice rice here, much better than the first one. Yeah, man. Yeah, this is the texture that I was looking for. I want to show you how easy it is. It didn't much kneading by hand. The food processor gonna do most of the work. The first thing we want to do is put our yeast to bloom. So here I have 1 cup of warm water. I'm gonna add a tablespoon of brown sugar. Just gonna stir this in. And now to the warm water, I'm gonna add 1 pack, which is 11 grams of instant yeast. Just gonna stir this in. And we're gonna set this aside for about 8 minutes. We want the yeast to become frothy and start to activate before we add it to our dough, or to the flour. And for the other wet ingredients, I have 2 large eggs. Just gonna give this a light beat. And if you want to make your bread completely vegan, you could substitute the eggs and make a flax egg, which is grinding your flaxseed and then adding some water and making a flax egg. And that will help bind the dough. So for the dry ingredients, I add in 3 cups of whole wheat flour to the food processor and 1 teaspoon of salt. Just gonna cover this and just pulse it a little bit to combine the salt with the flour. And now we're going to add our yeast. Yeah, as you can see, is very frothy, so we know it nice and active and alive. Add that in. Gonna add our eggs and 2 tablespoons of vegetable shortening at room temperature. Now I'm gonna mix this, pulse it, and then start to mix it for about 30 to 45 seconds. "30 seconds later, and we're looking good. And as you can see, we didn't need no fancy stand mixer to achieve this. This is just the food processor doing its thing and activating or developing the gluten in the flour in a way that I guess would take a lot of effort if you had to do it by hand. So this is a real nice cheat or trick, and you will see the kind of results that it will provide, you know. It'll be a real nice light bread when we finish with it. So what I'm gonna do now is transfer this onto our work surface and then form it into a ball so that we could put it to rise. Now it's time to work this dough into a ball, and usually I would say at this point to flour your surface and start to work with it, but because we don't want it to dry out and we don't want this to be a dry dough at all, I will say use oil instead of flour. So I'm just gonna add some oil to my hands, a little bit of oil on the dough itself. All right, so we have a nice smooth dough going on here. So I'm just gonna put it into a greased bowl. All right, so now we're gonna set this aside and allow it to proof for 90 minutes, about an hour and a half, or until it has doubled in size. Well, as we say in Trinidad and Tobago, these days it's making real hot. So it only took an hour for this to double in size. So now I'm gonna turn it onto our work surface and we're gonna continue forming our bread. Turn this out onto the surface. I'm gonna flatten this into a rectangle. And we don't need the rolling pin for this. You can do it by hand. And now we're gonna roll and tuck it onto itself. Shape this into a loaf. Now we're gonna place it into our bread pan. Place it into the bread pan. And now we're gonna cover this and allow it to proof again for 45 minutes to an hour. All right, so 45 minutes later and our bread has proofed nicely. So now we're gonna put this in the oven at 350 degrees for 30 minutes. All right, so our bread is out of the oven. Now I just wanna brush the top with some melted butter. Let's give it a nice crust. So just putting it onto my rack here. I'm going to allow it to cool for about 10 minutes. I'm brushing the side with some butter as well because why not, right? Why not? Butter makes it better. But you can see how we look in here. Proper whole wheat bread business. Okay, so now it's time for the moment of truth, and that is to cut in and see what we're looking like. Let's cut a little slice here. Nice. Check that. This is the kind of texture that we want in a whole wheat bread. This is what we're talking about. That sandwich loaf kind of texture. Light, fluffy. See that? See all that tear in there? That is proper texture for a whole wheat bread. And we didn't add any white flour to achieve this. So you see how easy this recipe was? Simple ingredients, and all we had to do was use the food processor to develop the gluten in the whole wheat flour to give you this kind of texture and consistency. I ain't gonna lie, this is a real nice hack, and I definitely will be using it to make all my whole wheat breads from now on. And I had a shout out Dude again for sharing that lovely tip on using the food processor. That changed the whole game right there. So if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and give it a share. And I will be posting the full recipe on the website, so look out for a link to that in the video description. And if you're not subscribed to the channel, please take a moment to do so. Go hit that subscribe button and ring the bell to be notified of when we post new content. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. I'm gonna make our bread and cheese here and chow down on that. So I'm gonna see you all later. Bless.